Hi, guys. Welcome to Bookworm Banter. I'm your host, Ariana, and this is the podcast where we're taking reading to the next level, one page turn at a time. From covers to chatter, we've got the books that matter, and the book that matters this week is The Reader. First and foremost, guys, I want to just say my week is starting off crazy because I sat here and recorded this whole thing for about a good 5 minutes before realizing my mic wasn't on. So that's how my podcast day started out. But I digress. Anyways, we're going to jump right into the book, The Reader. It is a Oprah's Book Club novel. It was really interesting. And a couple of things about the book before we get into the discussion. This book was not suggested to me. I actually went into Half Price Books. Shout out to them. And I was just kind of walking the aisles trying to find a good book to read. And I picked this book up. I really liked the cover. I thought it was really artistic. And then I read the back of the book, and it sounded really interesting, like a love affair, but intriguing and mysterious and wrong. And it being an Oprah's Book Club novel, I thought, hey, it's going to be a good book. It's going to be great. So I went ahead, picked it up. I picked up several books while I was there, none of which I really knew anything about. This one is a short one. So this is why I decided to read it first of all the books I picked up. It is only 218 pages. So it is a short read, guys. If you're looking for something to read in your spare time and you're looking for something that you can quickly get through, I would highly suggest this book, because even though this book took me about a week to read, and I think it took me so long to read because it was so short that I was like, oh, I can just read this in no time. And I kept putting it off. I'd start, stop the book. And before you know it, it was like 4 days later and I'm only on page like 80. So it did take me a little longer to read this book. But if I had really hunkered down and read it, I could have probably read it in like 2 or 3 days. So that's one great thing about this book. However, this book definitely surprised me. I just looked at some notes that I have, guys, on this book. So this book surprised me for one very large reason, and it's because I did not know that this book was going to be a Nazi book. Not that there's anything wrong with that type of reading, but when I read this book, on the back of the book last week, I described it to you guys. This book sets the tone as a haunted landscape of post-war Germany. Now, nowhere does it mention Nazis or Holocaust in the back of the reading. And it does say that Hannah is on trial for a hideous crime, but given that this is more of a sex crime story, I kind of thought that she would have been on trial for like maybe murder or maybe molestation, or that she had just gone around and formed illicit relationships with young men all across post-war Germany, and it finally caught up to her or something. I didn't realize that, just based on the description, that it was going to be a book that involved Nazis or the Holocaust. And again, nothing wrong with that type of reading, and I think that everybody should be educated on that. However, it's not something I particularly enjoy reading about in my spare time. Like when I'm diving into a reading, it's not really my first pick of historical moments. I don't really like to read historical books. But yeah, for me, I just kind of felt blindsided by the whole Nazi Holocaust tie-in to the book. And again, nothing wrong with it. But for me, I really wish that they had been more descriptive about what was in the book, in the description on the back of the book, because I might not have bought it in that case. But regardless of that tie-in, it was still a really good book. It was just surprising once I got towards the middle of the book and it turned into a completely different story. So that is one thing I did not like about the book. But overall, the book was good. It was a quick, short read. Not really quick for me, but it can be a quick, short read. It's only 218 pages, guys. I don't know many books nowadays that are less than 300 pages. So if you're looking for a good book that's also short, This was a really good one. And let's jump into the good parts of the book. So, first off, first page of the book, which I thought was hilarious. I'm going to read you how the book starts out. When I was 15, I got hepatitis. That is the first line of the book. When I was 15, I got hepatitis. And that just was so funny to me because most books that you read, they are going to start out kind of slow and not give you a whole lot and introduce characters and set a setting of how the book is going to go, something, before they give you some juicy juice. This book, however, did not. And I think maybe because it is only 218 pages is the reason why it just gives you everything. And that's another great thing about this book, because it is so short, there's not a whole lot of fluff within the book. There's not a whole lot of unnecessary descriptions. There's not a whole lot of unnecessary conversations. Everything in the book is put in with intent, and the delivery is very straightforward. So that is one thing that I really enjoyed about this book, that it does get straight to the point in all parts of the book, not just the beginning, but all parts of the book. It gets very straight to the point. But I did think that first line was really hilarious, and it made me Google about hepatitis, because I'm like, okay, I know this book is about sex. And isn't hepatitis like a transferable disease? Like, how do you, first, when you were 15, you got hepatitis? Like, is he an addict, or how is this story going to go with him having hepatitis? He's just giving hepatitis to everybody. So I really had to go out and Google what type of hepatitis you can recover from and not transmit to other people. So it really had me thinking. That first line. It was hilarious. And let's see. Also, before we get into the characters and the storyline, I don't know if you've seen a show on Hulu. It is called A Teacher. And it is a show about a teacher who takes advantage of one of her senior class students, and they have an illicit affair, and she gets caught. And so the book starts out really reminding me of that show. If you haven't watched it, it's really good. Go out, watch that if you're looking for something to watch. But if you're looking for something to read, The Reader's also good. So the book really reminded me of that show in the beginning. Okay, so the main characters of this book are going to be Michael Berg and Hannah. And the first maybe like 120 pages, 120 pages are going to be about their illicit affair. Michael discovers that he is sick with hepatitis. He's walking down the street and he starts vomiting. He's feeling very weak, and Hannah helps him by cleaning up his vomit and getting him home. And then when he gets better, Michael tells his mom that a nice lady had helped him get home. And so he decides to go and bring her flowers at her address. So that's how they really start to meet and interact. And at first, that first meeting, while it was inappropriate, it was also innocent. It wasn't innocent, I guess, in a sense, because I don't really see why you would let a 15-year-old boy into your home while you are in a negligee getting dressed for work. I would say, oh, put a robe on maybe, wait at the door. I'm going to come out. Different times, I guess. I don't know. But in 2023, that seems hella inappropriate. But back then, that might have just seemed innocent. Some boy coming by to thank you and giving you flowers and inviting him in. That might be the polite thing to do back in those times. But in 2023, I'm not doing that. The whole situation, in my opinion, was inappropriate, but also innocent in the sense that Hannah wasn't trying at that time to seduce him in any way. But I thought one really interesting thing about the beginning of the book and their first interaction is the stockings. So in the book, Michael says that he's watching Hannah dress for work and she's putting on stockings, like individual stockings, and she's rolling them up her legs. She's got her leg hoisted up on a chair and she's rolling the stocking up her legs, and he's just kind of watching her. And he's so enticed and intrigued and aroused by this non sexual act. And he says in the book that multiple times he's since asked other girlfriends to put on stockings, but they try and do it all sexy and purposefully sexy, so it's just not the same. And it made me think to myself, like, is there an act that isn't sexual in itself yet I find appealing, like the stockings being put on? And I don't know that I've ever really considered it, but reading that book and that scene really made me consider, like, there are so many things that can be considered sexual, but not be in itself by nature sexual. So I would love to hear if any of you guys have an idea or have had an experience where there's something in sexually appealing that is not forthcoming with sexual nature, like the stockings. So Michael, watching Hannah put on the stockings, he now is becomes obsessed with her and he can't stop thinking about her. He's going home and laying in bed having wet dreams about Hannah and these stockings, and he's just drawn to go back to her house. So he goes back to her house and waits for her on her footsteps because she's not home yet. She comes up the stairs with Coke. I had to Google what that was. Obviously, this is a European book, and I don't know if Coke was a thing in America in 1940 whatever, 1948, but I had no idea why they kept saying Coke, and it really confused me. So I had to Google what that was, and apparently it's like coal or some type of furnace fuel that looks like coal. So she comes up the stairs with buckets of Coke, and she's like, "Oh, there's more buckets downstairs. Go down there, get them, and come back upstairs and bring them in." So Michael goes downstairs, tries to get the Coke. Rubble falls everywhere. He gets really dirty. He comes up to her apartment with the buckets filled, but he's a mess. And she's like, "Oh, you look so messy. You can't go home like this. Take your clothes off. I'll run you a bath." Already very inappropriate. First off, like I said, 2023, I'm not inviting no little boy into my house unattended, no parents around. No, that's just not happening. And so then she invites him back in for a second time and tells him to get undressed, take his clothes off, and get into her bathtub. Mind you, she's in like a studio apartment. So their bathroom has no door on it. And the bathtub you can see from the kitchen. So she has like a little sheer curtain. She's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna look." But she's still looking, y'all. So he gets into the bathtub, takes a bath. He's laying there for a little bit. And then she comes back with a towel and she's like, "Okay, come on out." He steps out. She's drying him off and she drops the towel and she's naked. And he says he can feel her breasts and her body up against his back. He's fully aroused at this point. He was already aroused in the bathtub. And by aroused, I mean like up. So the book starts wilding out, y'all, because I think this is on page like, it's early in the book. It has to be at least like in the first 30 pages that this takes place. But she's standing behind him and she reaches around, grabs his thing, and is like, "This is what you came for, isn't it?" And she just grabs a hold of that thing. And I'm just sitting here reading this book, like, and my jaw is dropping. I'm like, whoa, well, this is so inappropriate. I can't believe, one, that the book is getting to this so quickly, and two, that she really just, she got no boundaries. Like, she invites this little boy in and just starts grabbing his tool, like, first 10 minutes of him being there. So that was just wild. Oh, it was on page 25. I knew it had to be in the first 30 pages. So it's on page 25 where she grabs his erection. And I was just looking at that like, wow. So another big thing in the book with Hannah and Michael's relationship was the train ride and her not acknowledging him. She's a train conductor or a ticket clicker or something like that. And he knows this, so he gets up like super early on his Easter vacation to ride the train that she's going to be riding that day. And he sits in the second cargo, and she's in the first with one of her coworkers. He sits in the second cargo expecting her to like come back and talk to him, and he wants to get freaky in the back of the car, the train car. So he sits there and rides the whole train for I don't know how long, and she never comes to talk to him. So he goes to her apartment upset afterwards, trying to talk to her about like why he's upset, why she didn't come and talk to him. Like, you ignored me. I know you saw me. You never came to talk to me. And she switched the whole thing. She's like, you were embarrassed to be with me. You knew I was in the first car. Why would you go sit in the second car? I don't need this. Get out of my apartment. She tries to kick him out. And the whole situation is such a manipulation to Michael because she's at work. Like, why would he just come up and interrupt her work day? If she had time, she would have came back there and talked to him, but she didn't. And I think that was really like on Hannah. I'm not really sure why she got upset, but I don't know. That, yeah, to me that was the start of the manipulation tactics for her being the dominant and influencing person of their relationship. And immediately Michael apologizes because she tries to kick him out. He's just so confused on like why she's upset, and he's confused on how to move forward from the situation because he's feeling anger, he's feeling hurt, he's feeling a sense of self-doubt on what he should do. And I just feel so bad for him because he is so young. He's only 15. He has no relationship experience. He has no experience in love or dating or women in general. And so I just really feel so that he's such a victim in this situation of emotional and mental abuse. Yeah, so at this point, I just start feeling really bad for Michael because he's clearly the victim in the whole situation. And the fact that Hannah continues to call Michael kid is really demeaning. Even after she learns his name, she keeps referring to him as kid. And I feel like she obviously doesn't respect him as a partner or as her lover. Yeah, her continuing to call him kid is just putting him down and keeping him in a place lower than she is. The beginning of this book, they really get to the point, and they deliver a whole lot, and they don't really have time to mess around because it's only 218 pages. But on page 55, Hannah hits him in the face with a belt, and I was reading this it just in shock, and it was infuriating to me to sit here and continue to read the type of abuse that Michael was going through and not even realizing that it is abuse because he has no real life experience, and he just wants so badly to be loved by Hannah and just wants to keep getting that thing, but also he feels as though he's in love with Hannah. So he just continues to get this abuse. And when the abuse becomes physical, and I'll tell you why, Michael and Hannah, they go away on a vacation together, like a bike riding vacation. And they're spending all this time together. Michael wakes up early one morning to go get some breakfast for them from the bakery shop around the corner or something. They're staying in a hotel. He gets up early. He leaves a note for Hannah saying, "Gone to get breakfast. I'll be right back," or however they word it in the book. Leaves a note on the dresser. He leaves, comes back maybe, 30 minutes later, and she's freaking out. And she's like, "You just left me. How dare you? How could you leave me? And you just left me here, and I was so worried." And she's just being irate, and he kept saying like, "Oh, I left you a note. Like I didn't know what the problem is." And she's like, "What note?" So Michael starts searching around trying to look for this note, and it's nowhere to be found. And so they're going back and forth, and Hannah hits him in the mouth with a belt, busts his lip, and then she's like, "Oh, poor baby, let me clean that up." And it's just so obvious, like, you just hit my man's. Like, you just smack him dead in the face with the belt. One, like he is your kid, and two, like you're crazy. This is the an amount of abuse, and maybe again back then these are different times, so I'm not really sure if that was just like, hitting back then was like, I send you to the moon. That was like nothing back then. But reading it now and seeing it play out, especially me being a mother, it's kind of like I can't imagine having a son and him going through this type of physical abuse, emotional abuse, and not being able to fully understand what's happening. So, yeah, that was just crazy to me that the emotional abuse had then turned physical, and Michael just kind of swept that under the rug as well, let her apologize. They have sex and make up and move on, and it's like never to be spoken again. I don't even think she apologizes for hitting him in the mouth in this book. So I was like, okay, she just wild. The way that Hannah and Michael's relationship ends, she just disappears. Like, it's his birthday or something like that, and he leaves early. To go see her, they get into like a fight. Then they make up, and Michael says that they make love like she wants him to feel it, like she wants their souls to intertwine or something like that. Like she's giving it all she's got in this one session. And then she tells him to go be with his friends at the pool. So he leaves and he goes to the pool, and he sees her looking at him from like a gate. And so he kind of looks at her for a second because he's unsure if it's her or not. And he looks like at his friends or something, and then he looks back and she's gone. So Michael feels like he disowned her in a sense. Michael feels like he's disowned her on a couple of occasions, one being at the pool, and then to his friends. They ask him like why he's always leaving their hangouts early and why he acts quiet and different sometimes, and he never tells his friends that he's in a relationship with Hannah. So he feels he's denied her when he doesn't tell his friends about their relationship, and then he denies her at the pool when he sees her and doesn't acknowledge her or go up to her. And then she made him feel like he didn't acknowledge her when they were on the train. So after he sees her at the pool, Hannah just disappears. She packs her stuff, moves out of her apartment, quits her job, and Michael never hears or sees from her again. So it is at this juncture in the story where the book turns into something different. Oh my goodness. I've been recording for 30 minutes already, and on a 218-page book, y'all. So we're going to kind of speed through this. So at this point in the book is when it changes to the kind of Nazi Holocaust situation. Hannah goes on trial with several other women for war crimes committed during the World War II. It finally catches up to them. They're all on trial for their part in a mass murder of women at a Holocaust camp. And there's a couple of things that I'll say that are interesting about this part of the book is I did wonder if the mother and daughter that survived the camp was Anne Frank. I can't remember if Anne Frank's mom survived the Holocaust. Another thing, guys, if you haven't read this book, you're listening to the review anyways, but don't Google the book while reading it, because I Googled, is the book based off a true story, or is Anne Frank the writer of the book in the story of the survivors? And I found out how the book ends. So that was disappointing. I wish I had not done that. So if you're listening to this review and you want to go read the book based off the front half of the book, don't Google the book at all, because it will ruin it for you. So throughout the back half of the book, for me, the back half of the book was a challenge because, like I said, it wasn't something I would particularly like to read. And once it got to the back half of the book, I found it more tedious to finish the book. So I'm just going to explain to you how the book ends, because for me, the front half was the most interesting part of the book. Hannah goes on trial. She gets convicted. She spends her lifetime in jail. Michael, 10 years later, sometime later, starts sending her tapes of him reading books. They discover that Hannah doesn't know how to read. And throughout her trial, instead of just admitting that she doesn't know how to read or write, she continues to confess to all of these things that she couldn't possibly have done because she doesn't know how to read or write. And so, of all of the women who are on trial, she gets the harshest sentence because the other women blame everything on her, and she accepts that blame because refuting it would bring to light that she does not know how to read or write, and she would rather keep her pride than admit to her downfalls. So Michael, realizing all of these things in their relationship, like the note in the hotel room disappearing, has to do with the fact that she couldn't read. So while she's in jail, he starts sending her tapes of him reading to her. She learns to write and read based off of Michael's tapes. Much later in the book, towards the end, Hannah is up for parole, and apparently no one's ever reached out, or she has no family. Michael's the only person who speaks to her or communicates with her at all. So the warden tells him all of these things that she's going to need to function as a human being in society after spending all this time in prison. He gets all of these things together for her, but she ends up killing herself the day before her release out of prison. And Michael is extremely distraught. I do want to note that Michael's relationships throughout the book after being with Hannah have been very affected. He got married, had a child, got divorced, and he was constantly always comparing women to Hannah because Hannah was like his first love. And this book really made me think about the detriment that an adult and child relationship can really have on the child, because so many bad behaviors are learned within that relationship. Michael says like he never wants anyone to disappear or be able to hurt him again, so he just closes himself off from everyone emotionally and doesn't let anybody in. So the fact that their relationship has so many effects on Michael really got me to thinking that about child and adult relationships. And I feel like the biggest thing that causes an issue is the maturity difference, because as a teenager or, young adult, you're discovering yourself, and you're discovering yourself with someone who's also discovering themselves. So it's not like one or the other are influencing anything on each other. It's like you're both trying to figure it out. You both are kids just, messing around. But when you're adult, you're really molding the person that is younger into how you like things or how you want things. And that person spends so much time trying to learn you, please you, do everything that you like, do it the way that you like. And they have such an attachment to the adult that it's almost kind of like a parental figure, that they're trying to get that same level of love, but then a sexual one. So it just really clouds so many aspects of a relationship that it can't really be considered a relationship. It's obviously pure manipulation, and it's very wrong. And you can see in this book how that type of relationship really plays out into adulthood. Like the teacher, the show on Hulu, A Teacher, you can also see how it plays out for him. It's not as explicit because the time difference between his abuse and meeting up with the abuser years later, I think, is maybe only like 8 or 10 years. For Michael, I think this is like a 30-year difference or something like that, of when he was with her and then when he sees her again. So that was just really sad for me, that this relationship he had with 15 affected his whole life up until he was like 60. So now we're going to talk about the movie, guys, because we are wrapping up with the book. It was a good one. I liked the book. I would suggest the book to readers, so long that you don't mind the heaviness of the back of the book about the Holocaust and all of that, because that was unexpected for me. That was my only negative thing about the book, was that, not that the Holocaust readings in the back was negative, it was just surprising, because I didn't feel like the description of the book fully let the reader know that that's what they were getting into. So the movie, y'all, made me upset. I'm not even gonna lie. Which, anybody who reads books knows that if you read the book, you cannot then go and watch the movie. And if you watch the movie, you cannot then go and read the book. It's one or the other. Because the reader was a book that turned into a movie, I decided to go ahead and watch the movie only after I read the book. And there were several disappointing things about the movie. One, I thought it was interesting that the movie changes Michael's illness from hepatitis to scarlet fever. I don't know if that was just more like hepatitis sounds way too serious, so we're just going to change it. So I don't know if they were just like, hepatitis is too serious, we're going to change it to something a little less serious, like scarlet fever, something he could quickly get over, or that people aren't going to have to go and Google how he gets over that. So that's what was one interesting thing I thought, that they changed the movie. The movie does leave out one important thing that I think really sets the tone for Hannah and Michael's relationship and the abuse that he sustains throughout their relationship, their short relationship. The movie does not include Hannah hitting Michael in the belt with the belt in the hotel room when they go on vacation together. They completely leave that out. I think they do have a fight about the note, but they don't include her hitting him, which I thought was really an important part of the story. Also, they leave out that Michael denies Hannah at the pool, which was, again, another really important part for his story and his guilt that took place throughout the storyline of his life. He felt like he denied Hannah, and so that really messed him up. Like, he blamed himself a lot for her leaving, and felt as though maybe if he hadn't denied her, that she would have stayed. But they leave that out as well. Another thing I didn't really enjoy about the movie is they include Michael's daughter a lot. She's older. I think she looks like she's maybe in her 20s, just finished college. And he like goes to dinner with her. He takes his daughter to Hannah's grave at the end of the movie. And also, he tells his daughter about Hannah and says that it's the first time he's ever talked to anyone about it, which is hella awkward for me because why are you telling your grown daughter about an illicit abusive relationship that you had at 15 that completely changed the trajectory of your life, and that's the first person that you're telling? Weird. In the book, he states that after his divorce with his wife, that he tells every woman that he's with about that relationship so they know why he is the way that he is. So for in the movie, for them to make his daughter the person that he tells about Hannah and then takes her to her grave is really weird. They also don't really show the wife. I think her name is Gretchen, if not something with the G. They don't show his wife really at all. And I feel like that's also remiss because they had a really good relationship together. Not the relationship like a good marriage, but like a good friendship. They were good co-parents. Michael says that she was very loyal in the marriage and outside of the marriage. So I really could have seen more of her versus less of the daughter. They also changed Michael's career in the book. Michael does become a lawyer, but he goes more to research law. And in the movie, they show him being a lawyer like in court as an older adult. So I thought that was, just little things that they change about the book in the movie. So Kate Winslet, she plays Hannah, and she did a really good job. And the young boy who plays Michael was really good as well. The adult Michael, I don't really under like the characters didn't match. The young adult Michael versus the older Michael, they didn't really match. And another thing in the book, once he gets into college, he becomes kind of like a player, and he is on the girls. He's getting all the girls. He's bouncing from one bed to the next, and he's like feeling very confident and cocky about himself. But in the movie, he's just like this shy guy who wants to like focus on his schoolwork, and there's like a girl who's constantly trying to throw herself at him, and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm studying tonight but come back tomorrow. So yeah, they just changed. I feel like they changed so many important features about Michael's character in the movie, and then the adult Michael did not match how the young Michael looked. I mean, I know it's not going to be an exact match because they're actors, but just the attractiveness of the adult Michael wasn't there. And even the younger Michael was just kind of like, okay, I guess for some, but yeah, for me it wasn't. I didn't really see the glow up for Michael from his 15-year-old self to his college self, how they described it in the book. There was no glow up. So if you read the book, I would say that's a good read. If you watch the movie, it is not a good movie. I won't say that it's not a good movie, but do one or the other. If you're gonna read the book, if you haven't read the book and you're gonna read the book, do not watch the movie. It's a waste of your time. It's 2 hours long. I don't even see how they get 2 hours out of this 218-page book, but I digress. And then still leave some stuff out. Make it make sense. But yeah, the movie wasn't it. Even if I hadn't have read the book, I still don't think the movie would have been good for me because I wouldn't have really understood what the point was. Reading the book, it was a lot more insightful and it had a lot more interesting things going on. But watching the movie is just kind of like, I don't think there was enough in the movie that would have kept my attention to say that the movie was good, even just by itself. And after reading the book and then watching the movie, I don't think that the movie was really good by itself. So I think it was like nominated for an Emmy or an Oscar or something crazy like that. So some people thought it was great. I guess Oprah, when Oprah puts her name on it, I guess you can do all things through Oprah. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about this book. The Reader. It was a good book. The movie was not. So do one or the other, guys. Don't try and do both unless you're just crazy like me and want to do both. Then read the book first because the book is better. But that concludes this week's review on The Reader. It was a little long because I reviewed the book and the movie, and I apologize if you feel like I rushed through the end of the book, but I had to also get to the movie, and I'm trying to keep this like under an hour, guys. So next week, guys, I'm being ambitious. I'm being very ambitious. I have been reading Haunting Adeline. It was a book suggested to me by one of my best friends. When I got this book, I did not realize that it was going to be 583 pages. 583 pages. 583 pages. I did not know it was going to be 583 pages, y'all. So I got this book from Amazon. It came in the mail. And I just looked at the thickness of this book and I was like, how am I going to read this? Most of the books that I've been reading are anywhere from like 300 to 400 pages, and I can read those pretty quickly. This book, I'm a little nervous, y'all. I'm being ambitious saying that I'm going to review this book next week. So I'm going to read you the back of the book. First off, first, I'm going to tell you the author. This book is Haunting Adeline. It is a novel by H.D. Carlton, a USA Today bestselling author. I'm going to read you the back of the book now. The book is told, I guess, from two different perspectives, the manipulator and the shadow. Okay. The manipulator. I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh and sigh, but my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He's always there, watching and waiting, and I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The shadow. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, and the way she moves. The way she undresses, I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine. And once she is, I'll never let her go, not even when she begs me to. I'm on page 176. Okay, I'm on page 176. So far, it's very good. It's pulling me in. I was on page 55 yesterday. So I read 121 pages in one day. So I hope I can finish this book by next week, guys, and give you a really good review because the book is really good so far. And I just want to read you something fun, just in case you're on the fence on whether or not you want to read this book. This is the first book that I think I've ever read that gives where's it at? A warning. It's an important note. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it gets a little disturbing. And before I started reading this book, I was like, what? Like, what did you suggest to me? So, if you are a reader like me who opened the book, start reading the first couple of pages and saw that important note and thought, what the hell am I reading? It gets so good. It gets so good. It gets way better. And the warning, I think, is just there for like NC-17. Like it's not as bad as the note makes it seem. So I will be reviewing Haunting Adeline next week. Fingers crossed. So come back and listen in for that review. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a returning audience. If you are a first time listener, thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm really trying to stay consistent, guys, and have a new book for you every week. So come back next week. Haunting Adeline. We're going to have fun with this one. It's been a fun read so far. So, yeah, see you next time.